Hello. I'd like to welcome you to the latest in Saname's webinar series. My apologies for the few minutes of delay in starting. Today we are looking at the automotive sector in India and particularly focusing on opportunities, challenges and solutions. Now, Saname's works with organizations across a variety of markets and a variety of sectors. And when we're speaking to clients, we're always keen to hear from areas that they would like to know more about. Today's webinar falls into that category. So today we're taking the opportunity to focus in on the automotive sector in India, a sector which, as you'll hear, is in a fairly dynamic position. So with that context, I'm pleased to be joined by leaders from Seoul's MSX International and from Saname's for today's update. Just by way of background in terms of the speakers for today, and I'll run through them in order. So we'll start with Bharat Rampal, who is the Head of Research and Partnerships from Saname's. And we'll then move on to Xavier Vandam, who we're pleased to welcome, who's the Regional Managing Director for Seoul's MSX International, covering a variety of Asia-Pac countries, including India. And then myself, Edward Dixon, I'm moderating the session for today's webinar. So just a couple of protocols. So you'll notice on your window that you've got a chat box. So please, if you've got any questions, please do feel free to submit them, and I'll do my best to weave them into the discussion. Second point is that the webinar today is an audio and slides webinar only, so there's no video. So I think now we can get started. So I'm going to turn over to Bharat Rampal, who's going to take us through the kind of market perspective on the automotive sector in India. So and we'll have some questions after he's finished. So Bharat, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Hi, everyone. Hope you are all good. So as Ed said, I am going to cover today about the Indian automotive sector with some insights about what does automotive sector India offers, and we see a tremendous opportunity for the foreign investors looking into the automotive sector in India. So if you see, basically in the overview part, we have tried to map out the some manufacturing clusters in automotive sector. We see there's a dense cluster on the northern side, which is dominated in the NCR region with Gurgaon, Noida, and Manesar, and also some kind of a presence is also there in the western part, in the places like Halol and Ahmedabad. Whereas from the R&D perspective, we see the automobile sector has a great initiative in Bengaluru part, and also traditionally there has been a belt of Chennai, which is in south of India, where we have seen lots and lots of manufacturing plants and tier one vendors have been there. So that gives a kind of an overall view of how the automotive industry is started and present in India. So the Indian automotive sector is the sixth largest collectively across the world, and if we specify, it is second largest two-wheeler manufacturer market in the world, and also the fifth largest commercial vehicle manufacturer. We have seen by the end of 2016 the automotive sector market was close to $63 billion, and traditionally the Indian automobile market has always been dominated by two-wheeler segment, which has almost around 79% of the market size, and there is a great change happening in the Indian market, where lots of people are coming and going from conventional mode to the hybrid models or towards the electric car model. So it is good to know that it's well scattered. Moving ahead on the market size, we have seen the the contribution of the within the manufacturing sector, the Indian automobile market has a 22% of its within the GDP, which is a good number. And again, as I mentioned, the two-wheeler segment dominates the market, and they have been growing exponentially because of the number of users. India has a very young population available in the market, and people tend to drive lots and lots of two-wheelers. And we have also seen this impact has been created in the market because of the rising disposable income and change in the lifestyles with great purchasing power for the Indian audience. So if you look at the left-hand side, we have seen the automotive sector market size has been growing constantly on year-to-year basis, and what we have seen by 2016-17, now we have reached close to $68,000 million, and the industry has been growing at a great pace of around 18 to 20% on year-to-year basis. Despite there has been some shuffle in the industry because of the change of government, change of the new rules coming in, but still the market has been growing constantly. I would like to highlight some key growth drivers for this industry. The government has taken great initiative under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi when they have brought in a new agency called NATRIP, which means National Automotive Testing and R&D Infrastructure Projects. These are the projects which are great support towards new investments, towards encouraging people to expand the business both locally as well as for the international clients. As I said in my previous slide, the Indian audience has got great purchasing power, which means they can now spend from two-wheeler category to four-wheeler, and also from hatchback cars to the luxury cars. People are getting lot of opportunities from the point of getting better EMIs, better low interest rates, and cashback offer schemes, which is also a big reason of expansion in the automobile sector. We have realized that there has been increased production, because since there is a huge demand, the production has been increased, and most of the automobile manufacturing plant have been producing the both two-wheeler and four-wheeler segments at the level of full capacity. The government has also taken few great initiatives under a world famous camp like Make in India, where a lot of relaxation and lucrative subsidies have been given for greenfield projects, and we 10, 18, 19 we will be seeing more and more inquiries coming for setting up of manufacturing plant. Through Make in India concept, it has also been realized people are looking for more clusters in India where they could go, particularly in the states where there are no manufacturing investments have been in past, or the local states who are trying to give better attractive models for the investment. So there remains quite a buzz in this market, and we see it's a great reason for foreign direct investments coming into the manufacturing sector, and especially on the automobile and component category. So moving to the next slide, which is on the business opportunities and investment opportunities. India has a complete diaspora of a variety of cars available in all kind of segments, in the petrol, in the CNG, hybrid, and conventional. But obviously the highlights are, if we see on the left hand side, we see electric cars, mini SUVs, and gearing parts have really picked up in India. And also now the CNG equipped cars are picking up in all top 8 cities of India. The government is taking a lot of initiative to produce more and more CNG pumps so that people can access them and people can look into new economic and green support kind of a program. There is a tremendous emphasis on the equipments. When I say it means that they are looking for more and more focus on the body and chassis part, the fan belts, hydraulic pneumatics. These are the most common equipments or the accessories which are most commonly used and produced in large batches and shifts across the tier 1 and tier 2 vendors of the large opponent players. which means there is a great initiative and opportunities here. I would like to highlight in my next slide about the import scenario. The Indian import scenario has grown down, which means there is a great opportunity for further production in the market. Though if you see from year 2010-11, we have been in the range of 550 to 700 million kind of import on year-to-year basis. But now, if you see from year 2014-15 to 15-16, it has come to the bare minimum, somewhere close to 207 as of now. So, which means since the local production is happening at a massive pace, and people are looking for international brands getting produced in India, which gives them a benefit of saving the loss of import duties costs. People are also picking up their cars locally for international brands which they like. Yes, there are some selective models, very high premium luxury cars which are still being imported, but overall the import scenario has dipped. And looking to the interesting pie chart, we see China still dominates the import for automobile sector in India, followed by Germany at number 2 place at 14.29% of the imports, and then comes the giants from East market, which is dominated by South Korea, followed by Japan, Thailand, USA and UK. So predominantly the market still dominates, import market lies from the Asian market, if you see, but there is a great urge for people to also look into markets from UK, US and so on. Next slide. Investments. So these are some massive investments which are going to happen or already in the process post Make in India campaign, and we will be soon seeing the brand Tesla coming in India. For example, the Tesla Inc. Electric car maker is likely to introduce its products in India somewhere in 2018, and this is a project which has been very carefully monitored by Mr. Prime Minister Modi himself, and we could see a great brand coming in India. Looking into BMW, I think BMW plans to manufacture version of G3 10R 313cc motorcycles in partnership with TVS Group, which is a group based out of southern part of India in Chennai at their Hosur plant, and will be exported to Germany, the home market, as well as countries across Europe and in US, thus India to position as global hub for G3 10R. So that will be a good partnership. If I look at the Kia Motors, South Korea's firm Kia Motors will invest USD 1.1 billion to set up its first manufacturing facility in the state of Andhra Pradesh in Anantapur, and the production is expected to happen in 2019, which is approximately led to 300,000 units coming in the first year. Similarly, General Motors, which has seen some tough time in past in India, competing with the South Korean and European brands, but they still believe that there is a great opportunity for GM in India. So that's why, in order to increase their capacity, they are going to build in their Talegaon based plant in Maharashtra, where GM Motors is planning to invest 1 billion by 2020, which may lead to rise of production by 2025 from 130,000 units to 220,000 units. That will be a great investment from GM Motors, and will further strengthen relationship with the West. Then next, Ford is also looking India very seriously, and they know they have an opportunity to increase their numbers. So they have planned to invest around $195 million to build a global technology and business centers in Chennai, where they have been already existing, and which means this will become a hub for product development, mobility solutions and business services for India and other markets. So that will be good leverage coming from UK. If I look the last logo, Honda. So Honda Motorcycles and Scooters India, jointly HMSI, is inaugurating its 900th Honda authorized dealership, making a total dealership size of 4,800 network across the country, and they plan to have at least 500 more network which means the count will go up to the level of 5,300 by 2016-17. So this slide shows from investment point of view that all the great industry players are committed to the Indian market to invest in the two-wheeler segment and four-wheeler segment. Interestingly, other than Tesla, all of them have been in India, but they are still looking for massive productions, putting their money in R&D and other collaborations with the Indian automobile sector as well. I would also like to highlight today an interesting aspect on what are the major highlights taken by the government measures. This is my last slide, but this will help you to understand how the current government is looking into it. So the government has taken a great initiative of forming a plan AMP, which is known as Automobile Mission Plan. And under this plan, the government is trying to create a regulatory framework supported by Ministry of Shipping, Road and Transport and Highways to better the sustainable growth of the Indian automobile sector, and they are looking to find ways and means for actual catalyst of a growth, so that there is a constant growth and there is a regulatory body which is monitoring the overall growth of the company. In India, prior to this, there was no mechanism to monitor the overall growth and the regulatory framework under the ministry. It is also well supported by Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, where these initiatives have been jointly taken. Looking to the budget parts, we have seen that in year 2015-16, the government has announced around $127 billion of investment for the credit line for the farmers to purchase new equipment under the tractor and machinery, including the off-the-roads. So that means the government is trying to give new mechanism for lending schemes, for EMI schemes, which is monthly installment schemes for the farmers and for the below poverty line. The government is emphasizing a lot on the hybrid cars, eco-friendly cars and CNG cars, and they are setting up a new protocol by mid of 2024-2025 to launch this mechanism, where India will be gradually moving out of the conventional petrol, diesel kind of vehicles under the global automobile impacts. We have seen a change in the custom duties over a period of time, but if we see at the import level, the car values for the custom duty varies between 10% to 40% for OEMs, depending upon the CC model or the engine capacity we have. Just to highlight here, under the two-wheeler category, the import duties vary between 60% to 75%, again depending upon the cubic capacity. And between four-wheelers, as per the new trend, the government is looking between 60% to 100%. So those cars have coming from overseas, they will abide by this kind of custom duties. But for any kind of a custom duty on lithium ion for automotive batteries, these have been exempted by government, because government wants more and more cars to be lithium ion based. Also, there has been a great competition between the 29 states of India for encouraging the foreign direct investments. Under this, we have seen state level incentives being introduced by the state government, and lot of subsidies, grants and relaxation in stamp duties have been given, along with the benefits of power tariff incentives, some concessional rates for the foreign companies in terms of offering them loan, or reducing the the documentation under the single window clearance. These kind of initiatives have been led by the Modi government. In my today's presentation, I have a last point about GST, which is Goods and Service Tax. This is the biggest reforms done by the current government in the 1st of July 2017, where government has cut all the kind of fragmented taxes which were applicable for day-to-day trading and import and export, along with other applications, and they all have been clubbed together under Goods and Service Tax. So the idea is to give more and more support and have a one tax in one nation to better its implications, and people are aware of its effects. These taxes would charge on consumption states rather than on the original states. Earlier in India, the taxes were varying from state to state level, but now under one tax, one nation, all the taxes have been, framework in a very systematic manner, and this is also creating a great impact. So people know that, under GST there is all parity for all kind of two-wheeler, four-wheeler segments, depending upon their size and cubic capacity. So that's it from my side on this presentation.
Great, that's brilliant. Thank you, Bharat. I think I've just got one question for you for the time being. So you touched on, I guess, production capacity a little bit, in as much as you showed the level of imports reducing. I just wondered, could you talk a little bit more about production capacity, particularly in light of, I suppose, a number of quite substantial investments that you outlined?
Yeah, thanks, Ed. That's a very interesting question. It is very good to know for the audience that the time has changed in India, where people, like I said earlier, the people were importing more the international cars, whereas now the Indian manufacturing units under two-wheeler and four-wheeler are having their own great capacity level, which means the Indian automotive industry installation capacity has grown high, and they are producing locally, not the domestic brand but also the international brands. And if I compare the four-wheeler market in last 2 years, they have grown by 20 to 25%, which means from capacity of 7,190,000 units to 7,954 units. So roughly around 8,000 units of capacity has been increased. And similarly for two-wheeler and three-wheeler category, we have also seen a great kind of growth. So that's one classic example that India is becoming more and more self-sustained in production of international domestic brands and is dependent on less on imports, and the capacity within the plants have been utilized to the maximum, and now plants are also looking for multiple batches of production for these kind of products. And under the umbrella of OEMs, now they are looking for more and more number of tier 1 vendors and looking for more and more collaborations, which means while the OEMs are busy on the top in the production capacity, the tier 1 vendor and tier 2 vendors are also fully acquired, and the tier 1 vendors are all now expanding their manufacturing units, which means that India is looking to grow very well, at least in the automobile sector, and that helps in the overall capacity production, not only in the automotive sector but overall manufacturing growth GDP scenario as well.
Okay, Brian, thank you. I've got one other question, but I'm going to leave that until a bit later on. So I think what we'll do now is move over to Xavier from Seals MSX International. Xavier has lived the experience of the Indian market and setting up and running a business there. So we're delighted to have him today to provide his insights. So Xavier, over to you.
Thank you, Ed. So I will look just a brief. We are a supplier to the automotive industry. We are in the service business, and we work with a lot of OEMs, so car manufacturers, car and motorbikes or two-wheelers manufacturers around the world. And so this is a very exciting business. If you go to the next slide, Bharat. Basically, we were kind of asked to join, to set up an office in India or a company in 2012. At the time, we probably should have been there earlier, but didn't get to there. A leading manufacturer with whom we were delivering services around the world asked us, look, can you deliver the same services supporting dealers in India? So what we did is basically we looked at, what does it take when you look at it in a market like India, you're a little bit, scared or concerned at the beginning, or maybe there's a huge investment. It's a big market. How are we going to go there? And we decided to set up. We looked at the options. Who could help us to set up. Obviously, we couldn't do it by ourselves. We approached several companies. Sanam S4 was the company selected, and they helped us through setting up, all the requirements and all the process. And it worked very well. Again, you often hear stories about India. It's complicated. It's bureaucratic. Everything takes a long time. There's a bit of that sometimes, but we were kind of surprised in a positive way by how quickly we could move the needle and really be in a position to deliver our business. Then there's the recruitment. That's an important piece of setting up. We got some support as well from Sanam S4 for a lot of the back office activity and how we should frame the business, and some of the people would help. And then also for the subject matter expertise, we looked at another company to support. When you launch and when you start, and you don't necessarily want to make a huge investment, basically you look at managing a small team. And you see, I was kind of managing a startup, but part of a global international company. What does that mean? It was important for me to recruit people that were self-started, that could be independent, autonomous. As an international company, we couldn't just fly in, fly out, every second day. So the ability to recruit those profiles, I found, I got those profiles. I had people at the beginning, or employees, the first employees, that could be self-started and autonomous. So that's where we started, and then slowly we've grown organically, and then we had to recruit. And recruitment is a good point. In fact, I'm talking about recruitment later. And what we did, just to finish the history, is that recently we made an acquisition of a company that was regional in Asia Pacific, and that also had a company in India. And basically, we joined forces, which allowed us to probably get exponential growth. Maybe it's a little bit exaggerated, but yeah, it helped us to really increase our growth. Next slide, please. So the opportunities, there's plenty of opportunities. I've just named three important ones that I felt were important. First of all, because the market is growing, because the economy is growing, and especially, some of the comments from Bharat were very, very true, very current, I should say, is that the market grows. So as soon as you set up a business, or one project, two project, one service, one activity, particularly that activity will grow year over year. If you do a good job, the nature of the economy, that will grow, and that what it has happened. So there's been a good organic growth from what you set up. After that, of course, you need to sell more business, more activities, but also those ones will continue to grow organically. So that's really that's a good thing. Then what we found is a lot of training and coaching activity needs. Part of what we do, there's a lot of different things. We support dealers. There's also activities towards manufacturing and supporting OEMs, on the technical side and closer to the manufacturing. But the biggest growth that we found was training and coaching, supporting our clients to help their dealers to be better, from a process point of view, from a customer handling point of view, from a profitability point of view. So basically, all those elements to help to have better networks. And then one thing that we quickly realized is that you can get into India to develop your business in India and set up activities that will be for the local Indian market. But very quickly you realize, especially if you're a multinational company, is that you can basically then set up activities that will support India, but that will support also other markets outside India. Obviously, India being a low-cost market, if you can support the US, if you can support Europe, if you can support Japan, where cost of labor is very expensive, and that's what we started to do. Is setting up a hub or development hub or services hub, you can call it whatever you want, where some of the back office activities or development can be done from there at a very, very competitive rate. So then, when you deliver or some of those activities that, what that development hub does for you in India, you can be competitive when you sell, that in North America, Europe, or Japan, or even Australia. You're a really competitive edge. Next slide, please. So what are Ed asked me or Sanam S4 said, can you talk about some of the critical success factors? Obviously, building a relationship. And everyone might, look, that's important everywhere. It's very important in India, and it's India is not far from Asia. It's a common thread in Asia. You need to really build a strong relationship. You need to build trust, and then your business will grow. Assessing expertise, you need to, and especially at the beginning, making sure that you recruit the right people, making sure that you recruit the right level of expertise. There's a lot of expertise in India, and you can find with all the degrees, there's a lot of university or colleges that deliver MBAs and also other diplomas, bachelor's, and you find a lot of that expertise. A proper back office support, it's very important, especially at the beginning. I've got there, but it's very important. When Sanam S4 started to help us, one was for the incorporation, which was very smooth and quick, as I said. But more importantly is I didn't necessarily wanted to invest in accounting resources, in finance resources, in HR resources, because we were small. I've mentioned before, like a startup. I wanted straight away someone that could support with all those back office type support services without having to invest, and I selected as well. So that was kind of the second step is, okay, Sanam S4, you help us with the incorporation, and after that, can you help us with managing all the accounting, managing invoicing, managing payroll, and they would invoice our customers. Obviously, it would be our letterhead, but Sanam S4 would do that, and that was very, very effective for us, and it worked really well. Then you need to provide simple and cost-effective solutions. This is again important. You don't necessarily bring your solutions that you deliver in North America, that you deliver in the UK, that you deliver in Germany. They need to be a little bit different. You bring some of that expertise, of course. It's important for the Indian market or for your Indian customers, but they need to be cost-effective. India will not necessarily pay the premium that you can charge, or it's not necessarily a premium, but it's a rate that you charge in other markets that is probably aligned with the cost of labor. You need to understand cultures and language diversity. This is a big market, and that when you're gonna develop your business, it's very important to understand that. And of course, the size of the country. When we started in Delhi, and then very quickly you realize that you need to be, to cover a lot of the regions, a lot of the parts of the country. You need to set up priorities. You cannot be everywhere. And again, Bharat was showing where the different manufacturers are, or plants, and the technical hubs for the OEMs. They're a bit everywhere. So you need to prioritize and make sure that you don't go and invest everywhere, unless you've got a lot to invest straight away. But if you got an approach where you need to be reasonable, and that's I guess what we did, and we managed to be profitable very quickly in doing so. Next slide, please. So the learnings, navigating the bureaucracy, and there's the government level, but also at client level, there's a bit of that. At government level, what we've seen in the past, again, there were some examples from Bharat under this current government. We can see, in the last 3-4 years, I can see that it's getting easier. It's getting easier to start business. There's to get a PAN, which is the permanent account number, to get a tax account number, a deduction account number. It's getting easier. So that's, and also the incorporation. I think there was kind of 5 main procedures for incorporation, and I think now it's bundled into one. So that's much easier. Then there's also efforts from the government, from paying taxes, from trading across borders, resolving insolvency. So you can really see some movement there. At client level, again, getting the contracts, getting POs, getting payments. Sometimes there's a bit of bureaucracy there. You need to basically navigate through that. You need to have a good relationship with your clients, and that can be easier. The initial investment, as I said before, I've decided to go. The board of my company, the philosophy is that we want a quick return on investment. So I very quickly realized that we didn't necessarily need a huge initial investment, and we would be investing as we went, spending a lot of the initial investment in the resources, making sure we had the right people. HR management is important, and you often hear the first piece is obviously recruiting, and recruiting is not complicated. There's a lot of different areas. There's LinkedIn. First you can work with recruitment agencies, but then there's LinkedIn. There's also Monster.com, Nowcurry.com, and then networking works really well. I found, and then when you manage your resources, you often hear, Indians, there's a quick turnover. They hop very easily from one job to another. I think that's not different than China. That's not different than many Asian markets. I've lived and worked in the U.S. In the U.S., you find also turnover. So I don't think it's much different. If you manage the people well, you often hear about salary hike in India. But if you manage well and they can see the opportunity and you help them to grow, the turnover will be limited. And in fact, our first employee, who was a consultant, a dealer consultant for this manufacturer, it's Ford. It's not confidential. He's still with us since 2012, and he's been doing different things and still with us, and enjoying. And we haven't been retaining with salary hikes. Cash flow management, again, that's linked to payments. They can be some bureaucracy with your customers, where you need an invoice and it needs to be stamped several times or approved by several managers. Again, if you've got a good relationship with your clients and you find ways, your cash flow, you'll manage to be paid, and you can manage your cash flow easily. Back office activities, I guess that's a little bit linked to the previous one of the previous slide. Is we've been exporting internally activities, so to markets where there's a higher cost, and that has worked really well with us. And Bharat mentioned, the investment from Ford with, the center of excellence or Ford investing with their R&D massively, and yeah, that is the case. It's public, nothing confidential. They've also very, very early in beginning of 2000, they started what they call a business service center. It is for activities where they will support the other markets in Europe, in North America, but it's based in Chennai. So again, a similar model where you can export some of your activities.
Great, David.
That's the last slide. Yes.
I think that was your last slide. So I've just got one question for you, actually. So I suppose a number of people that will watch this will probably be in the position you were back in 2011, wondering about how to enter the market and how to plan your market entry. Can you just talk a little bit, I suppose, about the process that you went through back then, to maybe help people think that through a little?
Yeah. Look, first the process we didn't do much because Saddam in the Delhi office did a lot for us. But I think one important element that I can think of through the incorporation, which I've set up a lot of these in Asia. I did China, Japan, Thailand, and I didn't find that. In India, one of the requirements through the incorporation was to build a business plan, and that was basically requested by the local authority. Is okay, tell us what you're going to do. That's normal. Every country does. But tell us, what you intend to sell. What is your growth plan? Year 1, year 2. I think it was 5 years from memory, or I can't remember, 5 or 10 years view. And I found it surprising at the beginning, but in fact it was a really good exercise because, of course, we had done a business plan, probably not as complete as what we were asked, and that allowed us to, or forced us, I should say, to look at it and say, okay, yeah, that's the government wants to see that, or the authority who's going to give us our license. So let's make sure that it's proper. We've got the right assumptions and it's realistic. And so yeah, that's one of the elements that we went through. That was good. Great.
Okay. Some really valuable insights there, having kind of walked it in reality. So thank you. Bharat, I've just got one other question that's coming in. That has come in, I should say, and it relates to M&A activity in the sector. And I just wondered if you could give us a flavour of sort of M&A activity that we've seen recently in the sector.
Yeah, sure, Ed. So we see a lot of M&A activities happening in the automobile sector, and Indian automobile industry though is becoming more and more self-sufficient, but in terms of technology or the advancement, they are still dependent upon the better products coming from Europe and Northern America, which also means there is still there is a great demand for transfer of technology and being a great service provider. So we have seen M&As happening in the year 2016, and 2017 is also taking a good shape with investments happening as per my presentation earlier. So we have seen a kind of an activity happening between JK Tyre, which acquired the Cavendish industry, and this is a great kind of an acquisition between JK Tyres, who have 12 manufacturing units across India and Mexico. And what we have seen, they have done this for a whooping size of around 2,200 crores. And then we have also seen some local mergers happening between Ashok Leyland and Hinduja Foundries in the space of auto components. And moving ahead, I can pick up something in my mind. Motherson Sumi, which is one of the leading tier 1 vendor, has acquired Abraham & Co., which was a big news here. Some insights from international news. Volkswagen Trucks and Buses have taken stakes in Navistar for worth 256 million. We realize that this will happen in the truck segments, and we are also seeing the presence of Scania Motors coming in, and they're also looking for some collaborations. Mahindra and Mahindra has been looking for acquisitions. They did first with SsangYong and then with Pininfarina. So these kind of collaborations we are seeing. They are also looking for the classic British motorcycle brand to take over, earlier known as BSA. From East, Nissan has acquired 34% stakes in Mitsubishi Motors here in India, and is still looking for more global partnership alliancing with Renault. And Samsung is buying Harman International for 8 billion. This deal was also a great deal. And then we are also seeing Bharat Forge is acquiring the Walker Forge, Tennessee, a PMT holding company, which is a Indian auto component manufacturer who did an acquisition for Walker Forge for roughly 400 crore rupees. And this was a great acquisition between India and US. So there are a lot of more time to time based in acquisitions are happening, which shows there has been a trend of collaborations, M&As, and I am sure in 2018 and beyond that we'll see much more acquisitions happening. More the companies come into India from North America and Australia, they'll be looking for such more ties with all the OEMs and vendors. And let me conclude my sentence by saying that there has been also great role of good private equity firms who have been vetting these kind of M&A and JV opportunities. So yes, overall a good win-win situation for international as well as for domestic players.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I think that brings to an end my questions. So it just remains me to thank you all for taking the time to tune in just today, and a particular thank you to Xavier Mondam from Shields and SAS International for taking the time, and also to Bharat Rampal and the Sun MS for research and partnerships team for their inputs as well. So with a final thank you, I will close today. Many thanks.
Thank you, everyone.